Yo, what's up guys, my name is Mr. Freeze2244 and welcome to the ranking of the 7 Deadly Sins DLC for Hitman 3. I'll be ranking them from the best all the way down to the worst. Overall, I don't think any of them are that particularly great. However, I'm going to show you the best, obviously, to the worst. And I'm going to go through each one and explain my decisions and behind all of the things like that. Go through the unlockables, how accessible are they to the 2 new players and older players, the aesthetics, the replayability, the narration, the restrictions, and all that kind of stuff. So we'll get into that. So let's get into it.
47, can you hear me? You need to wake up.
So coming at number 1 on my list, which I think is the best out of the DLC, is going to be the Pride Profusion, which is the Pride Season of Sin, which was the second one that came out of the Season of Sins. And this takes place in Chongqing, and it's actually my favourite map in the game, so it comes at a good time. I think the ones on this particular map were actually pretty good in terms of the DLC, and we'll get to that in a little bit. So what stands out for this escalation really is the fact that you have a lot of freedom in this. So you have to basically, first of all, the gimmick of this is you need to go and find the peacock, and the peacock will give you an option of 2 different kind of weapons, and depending on the weapon you pick up, it has 2 difficulties. So if you pick the more difficult kind of weapon, you have to go down a more stealthy route. If you pick down the the other kind of route, it's more of a louder option, but it's a lot easier. But whichever one you want to do is completely up to you. So whatever weapon you pick up, it's going to have a different objective, and it's kind of cool in that aspect. And it moves on to the next stages in level 2 as well, depending on how well you do. And there's multiple challenges throughout this escalation as well. So you can choose to pick the easy option all the time, or choose to pick the hard option all the time, and they'll unlock different challenges and stuff like that. So the particular rewards for this is the suit that you're seeing on the screen right now, which I find repulsive. It's like a suit of mirrors. I don't think it's very good. It's amongst the worst of the suits about a part of this escalation, so it hasn't got that going for it, so it doesn't look very nice. In terms of the aesthetics of this escalation, there's nothing really special from it. It's just the fact that the whole screen's got a purple haze, but this kind of filter is going to be a regular occurrence throughout all of the different DLCs. The replayability is there because, like I said, you've got multiple choices, and because you've got to go through those challenges as well, you'll be definitely trying different things and trying different ways of completing this escalation. It's almost like 2 escalations in one, because you can play it twice, and both times will be completely different, which is really cool. The narration, I didn't find it too distracting. I didn't mind it compared to some of the others. In terms of restrictions, I thought it was very open. So, for newer players, I would recommend purchasing Pride if you are interested in dabbling in this DLC. So if I was to recommend one, it would definitely be the Pride DLC out of all of them. So it's got something in there for new players and for older players, which I quite like about that. So at number 1 on my list is Pride. Also, I want to quickly touch on the unlockables for this particular one. You get the Majestic Sniper Rifle, which is a pretty decent one. It's got piercing rounds and stuff like that as well, and the Marksman perk. And also you get the Proud Swashbuckler, which is just a reskin of Under the Sword that we already had, that we unlocked from Dubai. So nothing that great, to be honest. But let's move on to number 2. And at number 2, I've gone for the Envy Contentions, which is the 6th Season of Sin, if I remember correctly. Yeah, so this escalation, the whole gimmick behind this is that you have a rival that you have to compete against. It's more of a straight-up Hitman contract, which is what I like about this more than most of the other contracts as well out there. This is compared to all the other escalations that were part of this DLC, this is the most straight-up Hitman-like contract. So you're competing with a rival who is trying to assassinate your targets as well. You have a score at the top left corner of the screen, and you have to take out the target before him. And you have to do it all the specific ways as well. You get extra points for that if you do use that optional objective. You don't have to, but you can go for that if you want to. And yeah, I quite like this. He does have a restriction, the rival. You can only walk, and if you are near him, the minimap will go fuzzy. So you have a big advantage if you long as you've got the previous map knowledge of where all these things are. You're not allowed to bring any items into the mission. You're not allowed to change any disguises. Those are a recurring restriction throughout this entire 7 Deadly Sins DLC, which I'm not a fan of whatsoever. I'll get more to that at the end. But in terms of the unlockables, you get like this jagged edged claw knife. Well, I can't remember what it's called now. But then you also get a sniper rifle as well with a little cat on the front. And in the promos, it does look pretty cool, but in-game, it looks very plastic-like. I'm not sure. I'm a big fan of it, really. I don't like it. It's not a very impressive sniper rifle either, so I would take the sniper rifle that we unlocked from the profusion over this one. But yeah, I did like this escalation overall. Like I said, it was the most straight-up Hitman contract out of all of them. And because it didn't have too many other gimmicks going for it, apart from obviously it's like a offline ghost mode. So if you ever got around to playing ghost mode where you're competing against a rival and you have to take out your targets in a fast way. But this one, you don't have to rush too much, and I found it quite easy. I never had an incident where the rival actually beat me in any of the kills. But yeah, that's just how it is. The whole idea is you have to just get a higher score more than your rival. It's just as simple as that, really. In terms of accessibility for new players, as I said, because you've got if you've got previous map knowledge, you'll be more of an advantage. If you haven't, it's still pretty fun to all work out and stuff like that, so it's not too difficult to figure all this stuff out. So I thought it was pretty cool. In terms of aesthetics, there was nothing really changed in the entire level. At least I don't think there was. I think there's a few cats dotted around the map, so it wasn't anything major or anything like that. The suit is quite ugly. You don't get the sunglasses like it shows you in the promos. And the sniper rifle doesn't look as cool either. In terms of the narration, again, there's nothing too over the top. It didn't annoy me or anything like that, so that's all pretty well and good. In terms of replayability, it's not got that much replayability. It's not one of the strongest in terms of replayability, but overall, it's a very enjoyable one. And the unlockables are okay. They're not great, but yeah, that's about it really. But that's my number 2 anyway, Envy. Number 3 on my list is the Gluttony Goblin. And this takes place in Chongqing as well, just like the Pride Profusion did. And again, this is another escalation that's fairly decent. And the main thing it's got going for it is the sheer freedom that you have in completing these 3 levels of the escalation. So the whole gimmick behind this is you got a recipe for this big pig that's in the restaurant, and he wants either fish, he either wants grapevines, or he wants bananas. And to get those items, all around the map, there's going to be guards wearing pig masks, and they have different colours, and you have to take out these particular targets with a certain weapon, whether it be machete, with a cleaver, or a pair of scissors or something, or whatever it was. And yeah, each one of them will drop an item, and they all have different areas where these particular guards hang out. And the good thing about it is, like I said, you can choose any one of these guards if you want to. So anyone you can find that has a white mask on, they will drop the fish. And anyone with a yellow mask, they drop something else, etc, etc. So there really is no one straight way of doing it. There's multiple ways you can probably do it, because there's so many different guards with these masks on. And that's the main thing that this escalation has going for it. One thing that does let it down, though, is the obnoxious burping that the narrator has. He's an incredibly annoying narrator. I would highly recommend turning him off, but that's really the only major downside to this escalation. The suit, it does look alright, but it doesn't really suit any of the maps in the game. That's the problem, really. And you do get some you get a pretty decent unlockable as well. They've got some bubblegum that you unlock in the game. And the whole idea behind that is you basically place the bubblegum in front of somebody, and any NPC, they will pick it up, they'll chew the bubblegum, and they'll get sedated. So it'll be a sedative poison, they get knocked out. It's not going to affect your silent assassin rating, and that comes in useful for when an NPC is carrying something, or carrying a specific item, or a weapon, or something like that, or a key card, or a key, and they drop it on the floor, and you'll be able to use that, and once they get sedated with this bubblegum. So that's where it comes in handy. So if you don't have the tranquilizer or anything like that, and you're out in a hostile area because there's a load of people around, the gum is like the perfect item for that. So it is a pretty powerful item. The other item they give you as well is like a golden sawed-off shotgun. The good thing about sawed-off shotguns is you can actually stow it. You can, holster it in your jacket like a pistol. You can't bring it along in the pistol slot though, however, you have to smuggle it into the main missions. But we can't bring any weapons into these DLC escalations anyway, but they are 2 fairly decent unlockables, really. This has got decent accessibility for new players as well. The only downside to the accessibility for newer players as well, you need to know where all these particular guards are, but hunting them is half the enjoyment around it, really. Like I said, the unlockables are pretty good. The aesthetics, they have made quite a lot of changes on the map, especially in the restaurant area and around in the front market as well. There's like a load of market stalls with a load of different weapons in there. I like those changes. is just add a different feel to the escalation. Again, I'm not a big fan of the filter that's on the screen, like it's like an orangey filter. It does have replayability. It's one of amongst the most highly replayable out of all of them because, like I said, because there's so many different guards with these different masks on, you can choose whatever the guard you can and come up with your own routes. So it is pretty decent. In terms of restrictions, this map, like I said, because it's suit only, a lot of these areas are required to get into these hostile areas. However, it's not that difficult to navigate around them, so it's not overly restricted like some of the other ones. But yeah, I think it's a pretty decent one overall, and that's number 4 on my list. The what's it called now? The Gluttony Goblin, that's it. My bad. So number 4 on my list is the greed enumeration. So this was the first one that came out in the 7 Deadly Sins, and this one takes place in Dubai. And the whole gimmick behind this is that you've got a restricted loadout, you have this golden cane, and when you whack people with it, they drop coins, and you have to collect these coins and feed the frog. The frog is going to be at the front, like near the front desk, and once you feed that frog, it gives you rewards, it gives you weapons, it gives you random weapons. It gives you the pistol, it gives you like an axe and stuff like that. So it's cool in that aspect. If you wanted to make it a little bit more easy, you can go ahead and feed that frog. I never did that. I wanted to complete all the challenges, and one of the challenges was that you could take all these coins, and I think there's over 30 of them overall. You get a golden pistol if you feed the frog on the 3rd level, but if you choose to keep them all and complete all the optional objectives that come with them, you'll be able to unlock all the challenges that go along with it. The good thing about this as well is if you can go, if you want to be an extra challenge, you can go for all the targets that it gives you. So gives you one target at the start, and then it gives you a second one, then it gives you a third, and so on with higher restrictions. But you can literally just take out the first target you want and just get out of there. But it depends on how much you're enjoying it and how much of a challenge you want to give yourself. But I did like that aspect of it. It gives you a little bit more replayability towards that. I do like the fact that the coins transfer over to the next level of the escalation as well. So that was the sort of gimmick to this particular escalation. And in terms of the reward, they give you the Devil's Cane. So the cane that you have throughout this entire escalation, you can't holster it, but you have to hold it in your hand all the time. And if you use it on any of the map, you can whack people in the head and they'll drop a coin. So as well as that, they also give you the greedy coin as a reward as well. So you got 3 coins, and you got the cane going with it. As well as with this suit, which again it's not the best suit, but it would be a lot worse if they didn't have the gloves. So I'm glad it at least has the gloves. But it's not the worst looking suit out of the DLC, but it's all right. It's just nothing great, but yeah. In terms of the unlockables, like I said, yeah, they're not very good. It's one of amongst the weakest. Aesthetics, I do like the changes they made in this map. Like, so you can see all the big piles of coins all around the map and stuff like that. So they did make some changes to this, but not much else. You did have this golden cheese puff dust that pops up on the screen whenever you knock someone out or kill someone, which I found quite funny overall when you actually think about that. But yeah, the narration, you had Diana whispering in your ear for most of it, but apart from that, I didn't really mind it. It didn't really bother me that much overall. But yeah, I thought this was alright. Like I said, the downsides again are the restrictions, but that's the same with every DLC. But number 4 on my list is the greed enumeration. Number 5 on my list is the lust assignation. Initially, I did like this when it first came out, but upon replaying it recently, I really didn't enjoy it. And it's purely because of the fact that there's a lot of random elements involved in this. You can't really call it an escalation either because it's only got 1 level, and the optional objective is pretty garbage. So the overall gimmick of this is there's 12 possible saves on the map, and 6 of them spawn in the map, but they spawn in 12 random locations, if that makes sense. So there's 12 possible locations for these 6 possible saves. So you find yourself restarting to try and find the perfect areas where these safes are, the easiest areas. And I didn't like that. You can't really plan ahead when it comes to this escalation if the safes are randomized. If it wasn't randomized and you had 12 safes on the map and you get to choose any of the 6, that would have been a better idea, I think, in my opinion. But they didn't go down that road. They decided to restrict everyone's loadout again, not give you any items, not let you change your disguise, and the whole map is pretty much hostile apart from this downstairs area. I didn't like it upon replaying it, like I said, because all these safes are in really high hostile areas, and it was actually quite difficult. You also had inside these safes are going to be clues, and you had to get the keys for these safes in these hostile environments. But yeah, you have to get the clues from these safe, and inside what the clues indicate are who is the chosen one, and you have to you have to find out who the real chosen one is in all the dancers downstairs, and you need to figure that out for yourself using the clues, and they're randomized as well. And yeah, I didn't like that. And then an optional objective as well, you get to take out the rest of the pretenders. But there's no easy way of doing it. Well, there is an easy way, but it's a long strategy of doing it, so it was really dragged out. In terms of replayability, I don't think it has any. I don't think it's overall that great. I just didn't like it. Narration got a bit annoying. I ended up turning it off in the end because it got a bit irritating, just hearing that restart again and again and again. And I found myself going through the same routes everywhere to all these places, and again it got a little bit frustrating and boring. It's highly restricted because there's nearly all these areas where all these safes are in trespassing zones and stuff like that. And like I said, because you can't use any disguises and your loadout is completely restricted, it becomes a little bit more difficult. The unlockables, however, one of them is a pretty decent one. It's the crossbow, as you're seeing on the screen there, and it has 2 rounds in the crossbow. And what it does is if you shoot an enemy, it blinds them for 10 seconds, and that's actually quite powerful, because the original flashbangs in the game, we got flash grenades already. The flash grenades, they only last for about 5 seconds, which is kind of garbage. You can't really do much from those 5 seconds. But these particular crossbow shots, it blinds the enemy for 10 seconds, so you've got a long time to do what you want. You've got 2 shots. So if you've got 2 guards you need to get past in a highly restricted area, shoot them both, and you can just run straight past and you'll have no problem. Alternatively, if you're going for a target and he has a guard following him, just shoot his guard, and then you can go ahead and syringe the target, and there you go, you got an easy kill. So I do like this unlockable. It's one of the best in the entire DLC series. So if you are going to go for an item for a particular DLC that you want to buy purely for a powerful item, I would recommend purchasing the Lust if you want to get a decent item. But apart from that, aesthetics, they have changed quite a bit downstairs. Literally, the whole area is now like a dance hall kind of place for, but they cleared it out with all the wines and all the dancers and that dancing around, as opposed to the ravers that are in the original Berlin map. But it does persist with this like filter that I have on the screen, but this time it's red. They give you the serpent's bite as well, which is this little necklace thing that you saw on the screen there, which is just a remote explosive. There's nothing special about it or anything like that, so that's not very good. But the crossbow itself is. But yeah, that's number 5 on my list, the Lust Assignation. Number 6 on my list is going to be the Wrath Termination. It was quite difficult to decide between these final 2 because they're just both so bad. I appreciate they wanted to do something different for this kind of escalation compared to the others. However, they did go about it the wrong way. So the whole lore behind this particular DLC is, as you can see there, 47, you can see his body there. So this is between missions of Mendoza and Carpathian Mountains in the main missions. So after Diana poisons him, after Mendoza's completed, 47 goes into this like comatose state, kind of thing. So he's dreaming out these sequences. All these DLCs are in his dream world. So you could say this all these DLCs take place between mission 5 and 6. So that's the lore behind it. But for this 6th one, what they chose to do, well, this is the final DLC out of all of them, but this is the 6th on my list. So the whole gimmick behind this is you have to keep 47's body away from. You need to protect his physical body, which is going to be on the top floor in Dartmoor. I'm not sure why Dartmoor is the chosen map for this, other than the fact that it's Halloween and they like the idea of a nighttime map in Dartmoor, I guess, because they really are a big fan of Dartmoor. That is for sure. But yeah, the whole point of it is like you're fighting waves and waves of enemies. So it's a permanent hostile mode kind of thing. So you've got 2 minutes to prepare for the first wave, and you can set a load of traps all around the house, electrocutions and explosions and stuff like that. And then you'll have waves of enemies, 2 coming from the north, 2 coming from the south, and then wave 2 you'll have 3 enemies coming from 3 different locations. The third wave will have 4 enemies of 4, etc, etc. And with each level of this escalation, the difficulty of these enemies increase, their weapons get more powerful, they carry more armor, and the more guards come with them. But I found myself throughout this entire escalation is just trying to find as many throwables as I possibly could and throwing knives at everyone's head. This is not fun. When everyone plays survival modes in like horde modes in other games, people don't want to be playing with the flimsiest items or flimsiest weapons in the game. People want to use their entire arsenal to prepare for these fights. If you are trying to go for a hostile version of this of your game, why not give us all the equipment that we've been able to unlock over the past 5.5 years? You have given us so many explosives, so many assault rifles, so many pistols, SMGs, and all of these weapons in the game over the course of 5.5 years. And if this was your final game in the trilogy and your final escalation in your DLC, why restrict absolutely everything that makes the game what it is? The game's about social stealth, changing your disguises to blend in with the enemies, to get behind enemy lines, to use multitudes of weapons at your advantage. But with this, you're forced to go around throwing screwdrivers at people's face. I mean, whose idea was that? It's ridiculous. This is like the most efficient way of actually doing this. You can set the traps if you really want to, but you'd have to wait a long time and scout every guard's positioning and where they actually go around this level, and then you've got to work out where you want to set the traps. That will take so much time, and I don't think it respects the player's time at all. In doing that, plus there's no checkpoints, there's no save points. That's always been a problem with escalations. You can't save the game. There's no checkpoints or anything like that. So you've got to restart the entire thing. And if you are setting traps and stuff like that, you've got to wait 2 entire minutes for the first wave. It's just not respecting the player's time. I don't appreciate the restrictions. I don't think it's user-friendly. I don't think it's very good for new players. I don't think it's very good for experienced players either. Because if you're playing Hitman's a stealth game. You could argue it's whatever you want the game to be. But if you are going for this ultra-aggressive way of doing this final escalation in your DLC, why didn't you give us the weapons that we've had over the years? It just doesn't make sense. What they could have done as well is if you've completed the escalation, all 3 levels, they could do what's that game mode? And then the garden show where deterministic mode, I think it's called. You got to choose a different start location, which gave you a choice of bringing in your own items. That was a cool idea. They should have done it in all of these DLCs. It would have made them a lot more replayable. But for the Wrath termination, it was just straight garbage, purely for that restriction alone. It has no replayability for me. Aesthetically, the house looks a complete mess. The lighting is broken inside the building. It's just way too bright and overexposed. Outside is the only area where the lighting actually excels and looks pretty decent. Inside the building, though, everything's overexposed and it doesn't look very good. Again, I've already gone over the restrictions. The aesthetics of the house, like I said, everything's covered in sheets and dust and that, and there's just water barrels everywhere. That's not really made clear why that's the case. It doesn't really make a lot of sense why there's a big it's a blue water barrel right in the middle of a living room. That's not really explained or anything like that. I'm not completely sure what's going on there. The unlockables aren't very good either. They're amongst the worst in the game. I would say they probably are the worst in the entire DLC as well. You get a flashbang in the shape of a bear, and it's garbage. It isn't delayed for 10 seconds. It's actually you only get 5 seconds of the flash. It's not good at all. I would never recommend using a flash device unless it's the serpent's crossbow. But other than that, why would you use that? Also as well, you get a Shaska Beast, it's called. It's basically just a reskin version of the Shaska that we unlocked from a previous map in Hitman 3. And the only difference between the weapons is this Shaska Beast, or whatever they want to call it, has a slightly darker tone of brown to the gun, and it carries 60 rounds to the mag, and it has a slightly increased ammo pool. But that's it. There's nothing different about that weapon. And when are you ever going to use that assault rifle? Apart from maybe this mission, which would actually come in decent handy when we could actually use weapons like that on this mission. You give us items like that as unlockable, but we can't actually use them. You could argue that, but Freeze, you can use these items. You can use the rusty nail and the crowbar to break open these boxes and go into these crates to find these items. But yeah, I'm not gonna want to enjoy doing that. I'm not gonna enjoy doing that every single time I click restart. I just don't want to. You only get 60 rounds in one magazine, and it doesn't give you any reloads. it doesn't give you any ammo to top it up. What's the point? None of the guards drop guns. You can't take any of the disguises. You can't pick up any ammo from the bodies either. So you're constantly just going around finding combat knives, finding machetes, screwdrivers, whatever throwables you possibly can to throw at enemies' heads. It's just ridiculous. I just didn't enjoy it whatsoever. I just thought it was complete garbage. Like I said, it could have been so much better if they just let us use the items that we've unlocked over the past 5.5 years. But that's just one man's opinion. You can obviously come up with your own conclusions and thoughts in the comments. But yeah, that's number 6 on my list. Finally, number 7 on my list, which is the worst DLC out of all of them, in my opinion, is the Sloth Depletion escalation. This takes place in Dartmoor, which is IO's favourite map. Everything about this was just not fun to play, and I'm pretty sure a lot of players out there had the same opinion as well. There was loads of complaints about this when this first came out. They came up with a new idea, which is fair play to them. They come up with this thing called the vitality meter. So the whole gimmick behind this is a sloth. That's the whole gimmick. That's the whole thing behind it. So the whole idea is the vitality meter. The vitality meter is you've got 100% of life or energy, and any action that you do, whether you run, walk, crouch, choke somebody out, shoot a weapon, it burns your vitality down, and it drains quite quickly. It doesn't slow down depending on how slow you walk, so you may as well just run everywhere anyway. But it does give you an increased restriction on what you can and can't do. Because if you throw something at an enemy's head or complete an action, it's just going to burn so much of that vitality. It does give you an option of taking out an optional target to boost your vitality, and you are going to need to do that if you want to complete all the challenges for it. But yeah, because of these restrictions, it was just not fun to play, and yeah, I found myself being incredibly bored by it and frustrated by it as well. This suit is disgusting as well. It's definitely the worst one out of all of them. It's like, I don't know, it's like this blue suit that's got all waxy drips coming all down it. I don't know what the idea behind that is, but it wasn't a good idea. In terms of the unlockables, you had a gold brick proximity mine, which is in the shape of a snail, and that's actually a pretty decent unlock. That's the only redeeming factor this escalation actually has. It's basically a proximity sedative gas device. So that will it will sedate your enemies, and it will be like an accident poison kind of thing. It won't take them out, it will just knock them out. So again, it comes in handy for when you're trying to retrieve an item off an NPC, whether it be a screwdriver or a key or a weapon or whatever it is, and you can basically just throw that in front of them. The gas device will go off, and it will knock them out for a sedation. In terms of the aesthetics, they have changed a lot around Dartmoor. Not that you can really enjoy it and take it in and have a look around because of the vitality meter, but they have made a few changes. Nothing too major though. In terms of the narration, the narrator got pretty annoying overall. I ended up having to switch him off as well. He was pretty annoying. Because the restrictions speak for themselves. I've already explained that as well. Accessibility for new players. I don't think new players or old players would enjoy this particular escalation. Again, it's just too restricted for me. I don't think anybody would really enjoy it. But what else is there to possibly say about this escalation? It could have been better. I appreciate, again, they're trying to go for new ideas during out these 7 Deadly Sins DLC escalations, but some of them, a lot of them mainly, just didn't pay off. And I think the best ones come up. The best ones are the ones where it's just straight up contracts, really. You look at the Gluttony, it gives you more freedom to do anything. And you look at the profusion, again, you got more freedom to do what you want. And that's the best. That was why they're voted the best ones. Even the community voted them at the top as the best ones, because people like the freedom of doing what they want. The more restrictions you put in the game, the less enjoyable the game is. Do you understand that? If you're playing a Hitman game, you're expected to put on disguises. You're expected to use a multitude of weapons. But with all these DLCs, it just wasn't the case. Yeah, it just wasn't good overall. Do I recommend these DLCs? Absolutely not. They're not worth it in my opinion of the money. But then again, you might actually like all this stuff that I mentioned here in this video. It's completely up to you whether you want to go for it or not. I'd only really recommend Pride in terms of enjoyability, Gluttony for the bubblegum, and Lust for the crossbow. They're the best unlockables, so if you want to go for those, grab those particular escalations. But yeah, that's just one man's opinion. Obviously, you can come up with your own opinion from watching this video or from playing it yourself. Let me know your thoughts in the comments as well. I know this is a long video. I appreciate you sticking with me for the 30 minutes this video has been on for. I do tend to ramble in these sort of videos, so I apologise, but a lot of people sometimes enjoy this stuff. So let me know your thoughts in the comment, what you thought of this video. Let me know your thoughts of the DLC in general, if you've played it already. And if you haven't played it, have I changed your mind about the DLC? Have I encouraged you to buy it, or have I convinced you not to get it? Let me know your thoughts in the comments as well. Subscribe if you wanted to the channel. Drop a like if you did enjoy this video. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you very much for watching. Cheers.